Willkommen bei der 34. Folge unseres Podcasts Mehr Einsatz Wagen. Heute wagen wir nicht nur mehr Einsatz, heute wagen wir ein Experiment. Wir sind live auf der DMEA, Europas größter Fachmesse im Bereich Digital Health, die letzte Woche vom 9. bis zum 11. April in Berlin stattfand. In unserer Folge 32 haben wir bereits über die DMEA berichtet. Nun berichten wir von der DMEA. Es ist nicht nur ein Experiment im Setting der Aufnahme, sondern auch darin, dass wir die Folge heute komplett auf Englisch machen werden. Wir wollen damit den Anfang machen, uns mehr mit internationalen Gästen und Themen zu beschäftigen. So welcome to our podcast Mehr Einsatz Wagen. The title of the podcast has two meanings at once in German and does not translate into English. You in the audience might have some ideas in regards to how we should call the podcast appropriately in English. Please let us know in the comments or contact us via email. Mehr Einsatz Wagen means to dare more and to jeopardize the status quo. It means to have skin in the game and to actively create transformative processes. On the other hand, a Einsatzwagen in German also means ambulance car. We will see more international guests coming up in the future. We will be guests with partners in the US where digital health and sports tech come together. We will look closer into the vaults of artificial intelligence, and we hope to be able to talk to a couple of actual rock stars who tour with a doctor to learn more about their take on digital healthcare. So stay tuned for more to come. For today, we find ourselves at the main podium of DMEA. The stage looks like a catwalk, a home to prêt-à-porter, ready-to-wear clothes that, despite them not being haute couture, still have a creative edge. This is exactly what we have been looking for to resemble with our panel. We wanted not only to entertain the audience with novel concepts, but also to talk with representatives from major institutions where digital transformation and change is currently in full swing. Places where they walk the talk and places that are internationally renowned lighthouses in their own right and that are represented by people that deeply care about what gets to the patient. Avid listeners of our podcast may remember episode 21, which aired in January 2024. Our first part of Charité Special featured Dr. Peter Gocke, who visited us in our mobile podcast studio. Peter is a seasoned radiologist by training and has been appointed Chief Digital Officer at Charité in 2017. Prior to this position, he served as Chief Information Officer at the University Hospital Eppendorf in Hamburg, Germany. He managed to set up the first paperless hospital and won prestigious awards. Despite his authorship of important publications and board memberships of influential organizations, the father of two adult daughters has remained a humble person that puts patient benefit at the center of his ethically driven transformation activities. The other person Arthur and I had the pleasure of interviewing in this live setting was Margriertha H. Vink. She is sitting board member for public affairs at the UN Women Netherlands and Director Research Development Office, RDO, at Erasmus Medical Center in Rotterdam. She also is Director Smart Health Tech Center and leads a team of professionals in the field of smart health technologies. She holds a PhD from the University of Amsterdam and several certificates from the Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University in Innovation Management and Women Leadership. Margriertha is a highly experienced manager and director with strong leadership skills, well-versed in the world of ministries, European Commission, and United Nations. She has a strong knowledge of gender, diversity, and inclusion for impact. Her fields of knowledge are education, science, technological development, and innovation. She is a real team player, networker at heart with both decisiveness and a good sense of humor, empathy, and someone who wants to go for the highest possible with experts and stakeholders in a collegial way. We step on stage at DMEA with a plenary that holds some four-handed guests and kick off our podcast live recording, moderated by Artur Olesch, digital health journalist and co-host, and myself, Tobias Gantner, physician and entrepreneur, founder and CEO of the Healthcare Futurists.
Erasmus Medical Center. So, Margriertha, please come on the stage.
Thank you.
And Peter Gocke, I don't know if I have to introduce you. Peter is Chief Digital Officer at the Charité Berlin. So, please have a seat. Last week we had a call and we spoke about this. What should we discuss basically today with our guests and with the fabulous audience? And then Margriertha had a great idea that maybe we should do something like a reversed pitch. I have to admit I didn't know what's that, but reversed pitch is something like this: is our guests are just pitching to you. So they are telling what they are doing, what they are looking for, what problems they have in their organizations. So I found this idea good, and let them start with Margriertha.
Well, it was not at first my idea, but we are facing, of course, a lot of problems in the health sector. One of the problems is we won't have enough staff in a couple of years to take care of all the people that are in need. So then the idea started, well, why don't companies make what we need? And the reason is that hospitals don't open up their doors enough for companies to discuss their needs. On the other hand, companies are very technology driven. I'm not too worried about the technology, but I'm worried about the fact that we get the right technologies. And there it started, why not reverse pitch? So what do we need? Well, I make an appeal on all the companies here. What we need in Erasmus Medical Center, and we have a specialized children's hospital, and until now, no companies produce technologies being sensors, monitoring devices, wireless, to help our kids in the hospital. So it's a big appeal on you, and I'm proud that I'm invited to do this reverse pitch. I'll leave it up to here.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Arthur, for reminding me that this will be permanent online, so that gives me some trust and safety. Next thing is, of course, there's a lot of technology out here, and you can see that nearly every booth. And of course, everybody now tells you AI will be the solution of the remaining problems. But in order to really have the solutions we need, first, I think we have to talk to industry and partners, what do we want to do and what do we need? And today and in the past, we often just looked for a good, nice-looking product, especially on fairs, and then decided to buy that product, and everything else will happen out of a sudden, and everyone will be happy and able to use this. And that's wrong. It's really a focus of processes in hospitals, and not about thinking how to make a specific technology work. And that's, I think, what we often have missed in the past. And if you look back when we started digitization in healthcare, that was for reimbursement and all those administrative tasks. And later we decided, okay, this little bit of documentation for physicians and nurses that can be easily added. But that's wrong, because a standard process in a hospital is not going to a computer and entering data. It's different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Charité has developed something like Charité Vision 2030, hospital at home. And my question would be to you, Peter, what will be medicine like in 2030? What concrete steps are you going to take to get closer to this vision 2030? What is happening right now in Charité to realize that?
If you look on German television, you can already see 6 stories about Charité 2049, and that's quite brilliant. But with regard to hospital at home, I don't think people want us to take their living rooms into hospital rooms. So we prefer the term healthcare anywhere. And that's what we are aiming for. Healthcare anywhere means we can deliver healthcare throughout the world, and not every patient has to come to our rooms. Because if you look at Charité buildings, they're quite old, and we cannot refurbish them all due to several reasons. And we are ranked high in medical classifications. If we were a hotel, that would be 1 star only. So we try to build a canvas which all things that we can do digital. And the approach is to do it digital first. So today, if you feel sick, you go to a physician or hospital or call one. And in the future, your first contact should be a digital one. And that's the reason behind Healthcare Anywhere. We started a platform, charité.digital, which will be a virtual coexistence with our buildings, so a virtual charité. And that's what people need, because today you can do nearly everything digital first. And in very rare cases, you have to be physical at a specific place. Why not in healthcare?
Now, Margriertha, we Germans tend to think that we lag 20 years behind when it comes to digital transformation, especially when it comes to digital transformation in healthcare. Arthur has just asked for the vision 2030, which is obviously less than 20 years. What is your reality? Does your reality match with our vision, with Peter's vision of 2030, or are you even more advanced?
Well, I think it matches. Of course, in the Netherlands, a lot of things already are done first digital. We learned a lot during COVID times because a lot of patients couldn't come. So that really gave a boost. The unfortunate thing is that you have to keep up the speed. So after COVID, it went a little bit back, back to normal practice again. But I think we are catching up, and we have a lot of patients that call us digital or call their family doctor digital already. They can send in pictures of skin rashes they have, etc., and that's going to be judged upon first. And often, in some cases, that is enough. And so you only also want to see in our University Medical Hospital, which is of course more complex care we offer, the most complex patients. And other patients are now more or less treated either digital or by the primary or secondary care hospitals.
We had a short conversation before we came on stage. We met outside, and I asked you what were your impressions when you came to DMEA. And I kind of got the feeling like somebody got into a time machine and traveled a couple of years back, obviously, because you're saying, oh my God, this is great. I see all these companies that offer stuff that has already been settled in the Netherlands. So everything is already set and done, and you guys are just starting here. Is there anything that you would recommend for hospitals in Germany to look at so they don't make the mistakes you have probably made throughout the time that you adapted to the future?
Well, of course, we don't have a standardized patient dossier system, record system, which I would recommend is Germany going to start. Please don't make the same mistake as we did, but try to get one pushed by the government that works for the whole of Germany, which is not the case in the Netherlands, and we are still having the problems every day with this. We are still working now towards a system that is covering the whole Netherlands, but in the end it's more expensive. The other thing is, I think that also when it comes to digitalization, standardization, that all the equipment that people use at home to measure their blood pressure or other things, that it's all standardized. It's a little bit now when you have an iPhone or an Android telephone, and you have to plug in, to load the battery. You nowadays also use the same plug-in system. And I think that's what we need for healthcare as well, which would save us loads of money, and it probably also will save loads of lives.
Peter, let me just ask you, you want to add to this?
I would definitely support this, because what we're really lacking is data that is actionable. Today, data is stored mostly in PDFs, and if you think that data is the oil of our century, it's ridiculous to get that data from PDFs. That's like fracking. And what we really need are standards and the obligation to use those standards, because I don't believe in interoperability by interfaces. We need common use data models to make sure once data is stored more or less centrally, it can be used by everybody, the patient and all the physicians in the different sectors we have. And that's very crucial, because that's what we need. Today in Germany we have something like 1,900 hospitals. I don't think 20 years from now, if you go to a time machine, every one of them will be there. And we have physicians in private offices, not everybody of them will be there. What about the data of patients that is stored in such a silo? That will disappear. And we need this data in a structured format to deliver healthcare. Healthcare is a data-driven science.
Well, we can't even get the data out of our electronic patient system nowadays. So learn from that in Germany.
Let's just dwell a little bit more on the data side of things. I'm aware that there were some experiments in the Netherlands to run hospitals without beds. So there are doctors in the hospital, but there are no beds, no patients, and patients just get in when they are being treated, like operated on. But people are trying to be treated at home or in remote facilities. How about the value of data that we generate at home? When you were talking about measuring blood pressure values, for instance, I would also envision this to happen at home. How about this value of data that is generated through smartwatches, smart rings?
A lot of those applications is that a lot of people also buy things to measure their blood pressure, their, whatever watch. But it's all, I think it's all trained on healthy people and not on people that have a heart problem or whatever. So a lot of the devices that are out there, we can't use for our patients. It's not safe.
And I think those devices do not necessarily need to be super accurate. They at least give a trend. And in some cases, the accuracy is quite fine. If you look for atrial fibrillation, a standard one-channel ECG is just fine. So in order to make the point, to contact a patient and tell him, you have to see a doctor because something is wrong, we don't know what, it's okay for that purpose. And we should not rely only on measurements by patient-driven devices. We have mechanisms like PROM, patient-related outcome measurements, and this will give us a bench and a wealth of information about a patient's course. And we have to need this. I think it's obligatory in the Netherlands, right? To use PROM if a patient is dismissed. And that's a very good approach to make sure that once you dismiss a patient after, in the mean, 5 days in hospital, to make sure you know about the course of his disease and the measurements you have taken to make him healthy again.
We also have cohort studies on healthy people to compare with the sick people, because that's essential. If you only measure sick persons or you only have studies on healthy persons and you don't more or less compare them, then also you cannot do any prediction of what might happen to a patient in future. So that's why we are running quite huge cohort studies in the Netherlands to see how do diseases develop over time, who gets sick, who doesn't.
And make sure you have the right standards. So for lab values, for example, the standards for Germany were developed in the early 50s with all the recruits at the German military service. So only men, more or less all healthy, and they had very different nutrition habits compared to today. But these are still the benchmarks for lab values in Germany. And you have to really think over this, how you create data and use it, and how you really create standards.
Mm. Yeah, the question is also, because we've been talking about data, but if you want to get the value of the data, you also need a solid patient record, digital patient record, or hospital information system. And I have heard that Charité is now exchanging its hospital information system. So how do you prepare for this process to make it seamless? How do you prepare for this change management, basically? Because it's not only about exchanging IT system, but it's about change management in the healthcare facility. So how is it going?
Unfortunately, change is never seamless. So there will be some, of course, rethinking about services. And that's the main problem. You have to change habits from your staff. And that's the main thing you want to do. It's not a matter of technology. You can buy different vendors and use different technologies that will work at the end of the day. It's a matter of processes and structure. And I was at HIMSS earlier this year, and there was a hospital that had the same problems. They had to exchange their different EHRs and with one. And they had 3 advices for us. One is, have clean processes. So make a decision on a process and then keep that process for everybody. Second is, find the right teams. So you really need the stakeholders. It's not the IT department, because IT later will never use that product. Find the right stakeholders and subject matter experts to create teams. And last is, stick with your decisions. So if anybody was not there when the decision was made, This does not give him the obligation to question it. If there is new information about a process, then you renegotiate the process. Otherwise, you don't do. And during their, I think it was 4 years in a row, where they have to exchange their EHRs, they bought 4 additional hospitals. And I thought, of course, they will stop this now or shift them later. Wrong. They directly moved them to the same new health record system because they really stuck with their processes. And it was amazing. I didn't believe, of course. So I was there on site, 6 hours. And you can go to every ward. It was very good, visible there, that even the IT people can show you every clinical process. So you don't need, IT didn't need to ask a physician or nurse to show something. They know the process of their customers and can show this, how that works. And you can check and test it. It was really the same process on every ward. And that was quite impressive.
I have also heard many times that it's not only about this transformation in general, but about culture in the organization. So, Margriertha, what the difference do you see in the culture between healthcare facilities in Germany and the Netherlands? Why Netherlands is progressing so quickly in digitalization in healthcare? What is different? Why are you better than us?
Well, I don't know whether we are better, but I think overall, maybe because the Dutch citizens, public, we are quite digitalized, actually. You know, everybody has 2 or 3 smartphones. We do everything on computer. We order everything on computer, and that's already for years. So already, and I think even maybe Scandinavian countries are even better. So when it comes to hospitals, I think it's more or less the same. People, you know, you can't have too many staff hanging around in all kinds of facilitating positions because we don't have the money for that. So we have to digitalize. So, for example, at the Erasmus MC, our pharmacy is fully digitalized. Our laboratories for testing blood, urine, whatever, is fully digitalized. You know, if you go for an X-ray, fully digitalized. You get in your patient dossier within an hour. You have all the information, and then, you know, you see a doctor and you get already, you know, what needs to be done. And I think that's also, becoming too normal for us, because when we end up somewhere where it's not that far digitalized, people immediately start to complain.
Well, I've been at Amsterdam years ago, and I've seen the team who is responsible for the clinical processes, and that was not IT. It was situated directly below the medical director, and there were physician, nurses, administrative tasks, and there were 200 people. And IT was 140. So there was a clear focus on having combined and really comprehensive processes before you start to implement an IT system, not vice versa, how it's done sometimes still today in some German hospitals.
When we talk about processes in technology is an enabler for processes, and sometimes technology is advanced enough to challenge processes. So you need to change processes. We see this, for instance...
It's the hardest part to change processes, I can tell you.
There you go. And this was part of my question. We see this, for instance, in nursing. When we look at the countryside, where there's a scarcity of doctors, people think, or some projects think of nursing staff taking over some doctors' tasks, or some tasks that have usually been doctors' tasks. Now, the process that is based on the law can't be changed because the law has to be changed in the first place. So what is nursing staff enabled or entitled to do in the Netherlands?
I think a lot, and it's becoming more and more. But of course, after the nursing training, they follow specialized trainings. For example, if you come and you have certain spots that need to be removed, then often it's not the plastic surgeon anymore. It's the operation, the physician assistant that does the work. If it's not too big. If it's big, you go to the surgeon.
How do doctors feel about this? Do they feel like something has been taken away from them, something that they could probably be making money with, or do they think something is taken away from them which would have been a burden in the first place so they can turn to more severe cases?
No, I think they can see more patients per hour. Let's put it like that. So if certain tasks are, trusted to other groups that can deal with it, I don't think any doctor sees it as a problem in the Netherlands, to be honest.
Peter, is this something like management now entering the area of healthcare? I'm a medical doctor myself, and as you all are here, and we haven't been trained about management processes in medical school. Not usually we've been trained. I received my training the hard way when I was in big companies. And the higher you get on the hierarchy ladder, the less time you have to take with individual decisions, but you have to take decisions. This is why you're paid for. Will doctors receive more managerial positions in the future? Like nursing staff is preparing everything and the doctor needs to take a decision. Yes, this patient needs to go there, this patient needs to go there, rather than engaging in a lot of time with patients.
I don't know if doctors really would like to do this, because it distracts them from the patient. I think they will look for support for this decision, so real decision support. And if you want to change behavior in a system like a hospital, you should start with the question why. You know the golden circle from Simon Sinek. It's first why. Why do we want to do this? And the answer is not to make more money or to be more efficient. That's the result. Next is, what do we need to do it? And then how do we do it? And people buy the why and not the what. So that is, of course, a lesson that should be given to hospital management and, of course, to physicians and nurses either.
Margriertha, you are the director of the Smart Health Tech Center. It's something quite fancy, and this is an organization that was established by Erasmus Medical Center, where digital health startups can experiment or evaluate their products and their digital health solutions. So the first question is, what is it for? Why the Erasmus Medical Center has established something like Smart Health Tech Center? And the second question is, from your experience and from your observation, what is the most common product or solution clinical settings mismatch?
Well, we started with the center because we noticed clinical staff, both clinicians and nursing staff, but also people that assist in operation theaters, etc., said, well, we don't get the technologies we really would like to have. It's okay, but it's not super. And so then we thought, okay, why is it not what we need? And then I think there is, hospitals are not that easy to open their doors to companies. So companies have to go and shop around to find a physician that might be able to help them. Sometimes outside hospital settings, privately or whatever. And on the other hand, hospitals complain a lot, but we also not facilitate getting better technology. So from there, the idea was born to set up a kind of center where we more or less are the liaison between the technologies outside and the needs inside, or the needs inside, and hopefully we can match them with technologies outside. That's more or less our role. And so we have all kinds of communities created, radiology community, surgery community. So if a company comes with a product, or maybe sometimes an idea, or a product that is halfway, we involve our communities, have them evaluate it, and then we set up, if needed, a meeting or a demonstration, and then things get going. I must say, honestly speaking, and many times we end up having a project with the company, because often the product is not what we really expect from it. So then we decide it has potential, so let's ask the Dutch government for money, or European money, or some charity to make it work. So that's more or less how we operate, and well, things are quite successful so far.
Did you anything develop from scratch? Like, did your team come up with an idea that, look, this needs to exist? We didn't find a company. We were looking around. Doesn't exist. Let's do it.
Not yet. No, not yet. But we have some companies that came in with products that actually fulfill the need. And we are now testing and validating their products, and hopefully if it works, then it's of course beneficial for the company, but for sure we will in Erasmus MC also going to use that product. Yeah.
So if you have also questions, just raise your hand. It's going to be an interactive session. Peter, when I talk to hospital managers, I often hear, yeah, we would like to implement a new great digital health system or hospital information system, but the IT department says, well, maybe it's better that we leave it like it is because it's working. Don't touch it, don't touch it. And the workers, the doctors, the nurses, they don't just have time to learn new IT solutions. So what to do with that?
So that definitely is a matter of leadership. So if you only say, as a hospital management board, we want to change the hospital information system, and you can explain why, you should stop. And next thing is how to make that decision. So in order to make more people agreeing to projects, we implemented a new management method, OKR, Objective and Key Results. And that means our board of directors really has to set some objectives, and then down to the last employee in the company, everybody can work on projects that directly fit to this standard strategic goals of Charité. And when there in this chain a decision is made that we need to replace our EHR system, then we have more buy-in than in the past. Of course, nobody really wants to change things that are running good. But to be honest, our actual EHR is not running good. Otherwise, it's always a big effort to change everything. And sometimes people accept the hurt they know and don't want to exchange that with a hurt they don't know.
Margriertha, how do you address this human factor in Erasmus Medical Center?
No, it's important. I think when we introduced some digitalization processes, everybody got trained, which I think was a very good way of handling the process, because people start otherwise complaining. And so all the nursing staff, when we started off with our new, for example, patient system, everybody got trained in different batches and retrained again to make sure that everybody also was going to use it. And at a certain point, well, as Peter said, you should not sometimes give people a choice. So if there is no way of doing your work by doing it in this digital manner, then you should not have leadways. Then stick to your decision.
Do you also train medical students in their training while they are in medical school in digital technology? Is this part of? Yeah, they get
courses, and as of this year, I think they also got artificial intelligence courses. Yep. And they are trained of how to deal with data, etc.
Yep. Digital health is also incorporated in Charité's training for medical students. It's at least, I think, 12 weeks of training, which is not that much, but at least it's a start.
Yep.
And what does it comprise? When I was in medical school, I learned statistics. Yeah. Nowadays, statistics are biomathematics or data scientists. Okay, but what is it physically or haptic that people learn? How to work with Excel, how to read data sheets, how to convert Word into PDF, how to prompt Midjourney?
Well, most of them, they know already those kind of things, so that's not the issue. No, they know how to work with data. They know how to, they also know the dangers of data analysis, etc. So they get this kind of information, but they also get a reasonable dose of technological knowledge, because that's essential. You can't be a doctor and not knowing a lot of the technological knowledge behind certain products you use. And also there we train them in. And we have a collaboration now with the Technical University in Delft. And also there, of course, a lot of new knowledge comes into our curriculum.
And does this also apply for nursing school? Do you also train?
We don't train our own nurses. We train when they specialize, but the nursing training are different schools in the Netherlands. Yeah.
We have 11 minutes left, so I think it's a time for rapid fire questions. I know the discussion is very fascinating and exciting, but now rapid fire questions, so please answer only with one sentence or 2 sentences, let's say. So, the worst advice you have ever received regarding digital transformation in healthcare?
Wait for a better solution.
Margriertha?
Well, it's a similar answer. They always think that tomorrow a better solution will come. So, but sometimes you don't have tomorrow, you have to do something.
Okay. The biggest hype right now you don't want to hear about anymore?
Digitalization. Yeah.
VR.
Okay. One thing that you dared to do recently, even for everyone around you was against it, and everyone told you, no, don't do it. Regarding digitalization in healthcare, of course.
Yeah, buying 2 different vendor types for connectors. Everybody advised us not to do so. We were quite happy to have 2 branches to connect us to the TI.
Margriertha?
Well, when we started the Smart Health Tech Center, well, a lot of people say, we don't need that. But we've proven differently, so that's I'm quite happy about that.
A technology that has fascinated you most recently?
Large language models in action, not on PowerPoint.
Margriertha?
Well, I think JetGTP goes fast. I think it's going to change a lot. And the whole thing is, how to apply it safely and do the wise things with it is, of course, we are in an interesting period, let's put it like that. So, but you also should not rely too much. You always have to check, and that's where the doctor comes in, and the nurse.
And this is probably one of the biggest questions in digital transformation medicine. One technology that will make electronic patient record great again for the physicians.
Speech as an interface. So in the past, we all talked about making hospitals paperless. Today, we need them keyboardless, because keyboard is not a good interface for interacting with systems.
Yeah, I think speech to text is important. And I think also that for a lot of patients, because we live in a 24/7 economy, I think hospitals have to prepare for 24/7 service, and I think that's going to be a big change.
Let me ask one other fire question. Will technology democratize healthcare? As technology democratized mobility with cars, or democratized music with Spotify and the like, will technology democratize healthcare?
Maybe we have still a generation that is not that much digitalized, elderly people. But we have a generation in 10 years' time, everybody knows how to use a lot of programs and apps, etc. So I think access to health, I think their digitalization can play an extremely important role.
And it will be not only more democratized, it will be also international.
And again, last question. What will this do to doctors? What will this do to doctors? How will a democratized healthcare system be embraced by doctors who, were, at least in my generation, trained to be some kind of high priest of medical knowledge and with the patient that's lying down?
I think the future role of doctors will be more like a coach, maybe.
Okay.
Coaching your patients to healthier behavior, being healthier. I mean, when you take a look at surgery, a lot of things we could not expect that years ago things would go minimum invasive. people would lie in hospital with a huge cut for weeks, and now you're out of hospital within a couple of days. So I think the role of doctors is going more to be a coach and helping to make decisions easier for patients, I think.
I would agree that doctors will adopt that technology. In the past, I thought AI or things like that will only replace doctors without that technology. But I'm sure for very minimal cases, these AI solutions coming up will completely replace physicians for very low-level cases. But there will be personal assistance for health for both, for patients and for physicians. But in very rare cases, even today, advice coming from an AI or an algorithm is completely okay and could directly lead to giving them any prescription.
We have 5 minutes left, so let's slowly sum up the discussion. I think that the best way to end our session today is to ask you a question, because you are working for very big organizations, healthcare organizations, Erasmus Medical Center, Charité in Berlin. So what went wrong at your organization, Charité, Erasmus Medical Center, when deploying medtech solutions, and what would you do differently if you had a second chance?
So I remember one project, not from Charité, from my former stage of my career, where we implemented a solution. We did lots of trainings, we delivered electronic training, but we had a real horror when starting this as a Big Bang approach. And then we learned by heart that people want to have elbow support on site when they have to adopt a new technology. Regard how good the training was, they want to have people that help them to start with the training. And that would be my advice for everybody who really makes a Big Bang approach for implementing technology, not only to do trainings and give electronic support, give them elbow support, because it's people.
Well, I think what the biggest mistake is not to involve the nursing staff or operation theater assistants, radiology assistants in technologies you want to apply in a hospital, because in the end they are doing the work, the hard work. And you see many times that doctors decide on which technology should be taken on board without consulting with the people that do most of the work. And I think we made once also a couple of mistakes in that way, and we learned it the hard way. That in the end, we learned that it took more time, and actually in the end the administrative burden was also higher. So if we would have discussed it with the support health staff, we would have known beforehand that the solution was not really the right solution.
I think we have still time for one question, Tobias.
If you're talking about doctors, if your children were knocking on your door and saying, look, Daddy, you know everything about digital health and healthcare and so forth. I want to do something in healthcare. Should I become a doctor? Should I become a nurse? Should I become a computer scientist? Should I become a chief operation officer, a chief digital officer, a founder, a startup geek? What should I do?
So first of all, I don't know everything about digital health. Second is, everybody has to find out themselves. I have 3 daughters. They decided not to become physicians because they tried that job directly after school in her social years. And they didn't like the system in that they have to work, because this is really driven by financial restrictions and not by the chances to support people. So they opted for other choices, and that would be my advice.
Well, I have 2 daughters. One is in training for surgeon, and the other one is a data scientist. So I think, and I know the surgeon is very, very, well, she says to the youngest one, I think I also should have become a data scientist, because first of all, it's less number of hours you have to work. I mean, if you are in training as a surgeon, you work 60 hours. I don't know how it's in Germany, but in the Netherlands it's still like slavery, I find, my personal view. And the youngest one is having from 8 to 4, and at 4 o'clock she goes sporting. So My advice, become a data scientist.
Our youngest one would have taken your advice because she becomes a data scientist. The oldest one is now a teacher, and the second one is a medical lawyer.
Yeah.
There you go. Trying to change the system as a medical lawyer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Margriertha. Thank you, Peter. Big applause once again. And one more thing. Don't forget to subscribe to Mehr Einsatz Wagen. Wo genau?
Well, you find it everywhere where there's podcasts. You just type in Mehr Einsatz Wagen. We're looking for new subscriptions. We're looking for comments. And this, what we just recorded here, will be aired next Tuesday. So in a week from today, you will find it at Apple, Deezer, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thank you very much for bearing with us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your guests.
It was Mehr Einsatz Wagen live podcast from DMEA in Berlin.
We would like to thank our podcast sponsor, the German Pharmaceutical Industry Association, BPI, for their continued support. Without this sponsorship, it would not be possible for us to invest the necessary time in editorial topics that enable us to produce a podcast that meets your and our standards in terms of content and quality. Thank you very much for all the positive feedback. We are looking forward to your comments again this time and look forward to taking you on our journey with the Healthcare Maker Mobile next week. In our next episode, we will take a look back at the DMEA 2024. What was new and surprising? What trends are now entering the mainstream? And what's next for the digital transformation? But also, who we think is missing, who was not present, and who was just talked about but not actually paid attention to. We report on our encounters at the largest industry gathering in digital health in Europe. We saw them all walk by our open-air booth. The digital health prom queens, the e-health kings, mobile health rock stars, future medicine punks, telemedical influencers, and all the e-healthcare game changers, prototype evangelists, co-creation enthusiasts, digital activists. DMEA becomes the European Burning Man for all things digital in healthcare. We love it. Digital health party time. More next week. Thank you for your contribution to shaping the future.